It's my favorite song, so I'ma make it thunderstorm.
You're listening to Rabbithole Radio.
Hello everyone, and welcome rabbits to what is officially the beginning of season 2 Rabbithole Radio. Which, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I have really found that in the past year, my ADHD attention has just been completely sort of split in so many ways. I had an idea in, I don't know, last year, probably about July, that I was going to host an event to sort of promote the podcast, get the name out there, get a physical sort of community of you rabbits all together, and I don't know, kind of expand, because I just think expanding stuff when you don't want to be too much on social media and TikTok clips and stuff is quite hard, and I think physical is always the best way. So obviously I do that, and then obviously I naturally am like to myself, oh my God, I love clubbing, I love partying, I love events, I'm just going to keep this going. And it was quite recently when I realized it's literally been a year since my last episode I've done. So I've had some rethinking about how I want Rabbithole Radio to look as a podcast. I've decided to visualize this shit and I guess enter the rabbit hole burrow that is now my bedroom. I've kind of gone to town, guys. That's what a lot of the events things were going towards, being able to sort of make enough money so I can buy my own equipment, so I can start sort of making these podcasts myself in my bedroom, in other spaces. When I interview other people, I'll sort of go to them. But yeah, let me, I guess, really quick show you around the borough. I've got my sign. Oh my God, it is just so good. It was made by this guy on Instagram called Mr. Rabbit, which is just the most fitting thing ever. And I don't know how we got in contact in the first place, but me and Mr. Rabbit have just been at it, sending memes to each other about rabbits, sending each other cute rabbit pics and stuff like that. And then he was like, I'm at the end of my tax sale, Miss B. That's what he calls me, Miss B. And he's Mr. R. Miss B for Bunny. The end of a tax year is coming, and I've got lots of resources and I can do you a discount. Do you want a sign? And I'm like, Mr. R, obviously yes. So big up Mr. Rabbit, got our sign. I've got some DJ decks here. Don't know whether they're in shot. Yeah, they are in shot. Got some DJ decks, got that camera, got this interface, got this microphone. Oh, look at that. It's like a carrot. How fitting is that? So yeah, the burrow's pretty much set up, and yeah, I just want to be coming at you with episodes far more frequently now. So I guess I've got to fill in probably some of you about what Rabbithole Radio is. It started off, and it always has been, neurodivergent focused, sort of going down the rabbit holes of neurodiverse brains, their hyper interests, what they're really good at, and just focusing on the positives. I feel like that's always been something that I really struggled on in school. Was there were some things that I was just so interested by and I just loved, and I would far rather spend time sort of focusing on those than what I was meant to. And I just didn't understand the whole concept of having to put loads of time into something that you didn't enjoy. I'm quite severely dyslexic, and I picked English and philosophy for A-levels, which on paper is just like, hello, you're cooked. Do you know what I mean? Why have you chosen to do that? But for me, I just couldn't do something I wasn't interested in. And I love people, and I love sort of diving into people's brains and seeing how we relate to other people and all of this sort of stuff. I think it's some sort of emotional emotional intelligence that comes with being neurodivergent, I guess. But all neurodiverse people have one or two topics, it's usually constantly changing, that they're just experts in. It's sort of this fixation for them where they can stare at a screen or just with their hands just never get bored. And I mean, I think that's a space I think should really be celebrated. Like, what are these people really good at? Because in spaces where you lack, you have sort of peaks and troughs, and I guess the peaks are in different hyper interests. So that's kind of what the show's about, in summary. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get people who are neurodivergent to come on and I guess just talk about their hyper interests. And that's kind of a plan. I mean, one of the things that kind of sparked me into starting now is I've had quite a sort of neurodivergent past couple weeks, I guess. Like my rabbit hole recap for the past week has been pretty crazy. I mean, I was meant to go out to Berlin to go visit a couple friends. Oh, guys, trigger warning, terrible story. Like, I'm not trying to make you guys feel sorry for me, but after this, you're going to really have my back. I'm so excited to go to Berlin. I'm going over May Day. It's going to be so much fun. Two of my really good friends are sort of studying out there at the moment. Booked my flights ages ago when I was working at my old job, which paid pretty well. So it was like, yeah, why don't I just book flights and whatever? So I booked flights, put it in my diary, and I've got a calendar. I don't know whether you can see it on the wall. I just love physical calendars. That really sort of itch my brain. Write it into my calendar, and then the day's sort of approaching. My flight is on Thursday. So Wednesday night, I'm packing. I'm so excited. Thursday morning, wake up at like 4, get to the airport at 6, scan my boarding pass, and it says wrong day. And I'm like, this must be some mistake. I'm so worried about what terminal I'm going to go to. I just hadn't even really thought about it, like the day. So I'm there going, oh, it must be tomorrow. Check. And it was the day before. So then I look for other flights. They're all like 500 quid or something. So then I just have to sort of accept my fate and not go. So I'm a bit down in the dumps. I mean, I'm having like a fun weekend after that. I'm just gutted. All the other journeys are like sort of 27-hour coaches for £200 or flights to random places in Poland, 3 Flixbuses. And it just kind of felt like cut your losses, skulls. Do you know what I mean? So rabbits, and I made some sort of decision this week where I'm a bit down. I'm meant to be going to Berlin. I go to my bathroom and I'm looking around, and one of my hobbies that I really, really got into about 2 years ago was hairdressing. I love cutting hair. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's something about, I guess, how something kind of 2D and very thin and thread-like, like hair, all of a sudden you spend a while creating layers and creating shapes and stuff, and then you've got a haircut. I used to do it on one of my best friends, Magnus, who I lived with, and I'd always cut his hair. Then I started cutting my own, and then I just thought, I'll just cut my own now. So I don't know whether you can see it, and I don't know whether you guys even remember what it was like before, but it's pretty short. Sorry, I had to take my rabbit ears off to demonstrate the hair, but I mean, it's not as bad. Once I got a haircut, I cut my own hair, and my friend who was at the house I was cutting it at was like to me at the end, and I was like, oh, it's quite short, don't know what I think. She was like, don't worry, I've got a hat that you can wear. And I just thought, oh my God, that is so not the reaction that I want from a haircut. So then I'm a bit nervous about this one. Go to uni today to, actually this was today, to uni today to, I guess, kind of try and find houses so boring, print off posters for my next party, which you should all come to. But I was printing off stuff. And I'm walking back to the station, and this girl literally screams, when she looked at me, one of my friends, and I just looked at her and I was like, that is not a reaction I've had yet. I thought that asking for a hat was sort of the worst. But oh my God, yeah, that was pretty crazy. So now I'm all trimmed up and I just think it's time to sort of start the podcast again. Do you know what I mean? So naturally I'm kind of thinking, what rabbit hole do I want to go down? I'm doing solo episode first. What's something I'm very, very interested in? And for many of you guys that know, I love ants so much, the animal. I'm just obsessed with ants. So I think Ants and Antics is probably the most fitting first episode, if I'm honest. And I kind of just want to talk to you guys about ants for a bit and why they're so amazing. I mean, so there's this thing called a superorganism whose definition is sort of an individual that's so specialized and so interdependent that it can't physically survive alone for very long. There's not really a definition on it, but they just are so reliant on other animals of their own species that it's quite sad they can't survive alone. So examples of superorganisms are us, humans. Bees are one, termites, mole rats, and ants. And aside from the fact that I think ants are so cool, like they can kind of carry 50 times their weight, which is just like superhuman. And they're incredibly bright as well. Like loads of brain cells in their little heads. But what I find the most interesting about ants is kind of how they function as a society. So for every one human, there are 2.5 million ants, which is insane. I think you just have to deep that. If you weighed all of the ants and all of the humans, the ants weigh more, which is just bizarre. And how their society runs is quite similar to us. I mean, they sort of have ants that sort of fight in the army, and they've got ants that perform surgery, and they've got different ants that sort of build the houses, and they've got these ants called honeypot ants, which are essentially the suicide bombers of the ant community. If, like, let's say an intruder tries to get into the nest, they'll squeeze their abdominals really hard and instantly die because they've ruptured, obviously, their insides. But they release this really gross sort of goop, all that's extremely toxic, all onto the invader, pest, whatever it is, to sort of support and protect the rest of its sort of ant colony. I mean, if you think about altruism, they've got it on a whole nother level. They are the most selfless animals ever. They've also got this type of ant, which I love. It's called a turtle ant. And it's essentially like the Berlin bouncer of the ant community. They've evolved to have a certain shaped head, which is flat and is the exact shape as the entrance of their nest. And they'll jam their head, basically being like a sort of door or something, put their head in, and then these ants that have come back from either hunting or finding food or doing whatever adorable stuff ants do, they'll do a specific knock, and the knock is chemical, because that's another thing about ants, is they're all chemical, which is extremely interesting and something that is so alien to us because we're audiovisual and they are exclusively sort of pheromones, chemicals. Most of them are blind. But anyway, these ants will do a specific knock. And then if it's correct, the door, or the Berlin bouncer in this case, will open the door for them and all the ants will just come rushing in. It's so cute, guys. I just think ants are like literally adorable. So the reason why ants function like this is because they've got this thing called the super brain. So every ant has 250,000 brain cells, and there are 40,000 ants, let's say, in a colony, which is me sort of saying there are less than there really are, because that's about a small colony. But anyway, if you add all of those brain cells together, it ends up being about 1 billion brain cells, which is the same as a human. A colony of ants is as clever as us, which is just completely insane. And you can see it in so many different ways. I mean, if you look at how, like, ants, how they live, there was this study, I'll link all of it down below. I've actually written the name of it. It was by this professor called Louis Forgy, and they basically poured 10 tons of concrete into this abandoned army ant sort of nest underground in Brazil. And they thought, oh, it's abandoned, let's see what's in there. Started pouring, and it took them 10 days for it to all fill up, whatever. And then they left it for like, I think a month or 2 months or something, went home, came back, started excavating it, and it was insane how huge it was. It was 8 meters by like 20 meters or something, just huge. And it's the cutest thing ever. They discovered that in their actual ants sort of underground nest, they had these sort of subterranean big highways and sort of little side roads. They had like morgues in there where they put the dead bodies. They had sort of medical rooms as well. They also had different housing, and also interestingly about ants housing is ants are more busy and have kind of more in demand work, let's say, live in the higher value houses. So they'll be closer to the surface. They'll be very like sort of wide along the surface to be in sort of quieter areas. It's insane. And then you look at us and it's like, come on, we're so similar. It's just crazy. It is insane. They also have different ventilation shafts. They've got carpentry rooms in there as well where they like make little stuff. It's like the cutest thing ever. And then, so that's like sort of one of the ants' houses that you look at. And that was sort of the beginning of when we realised how insane these animals are. It's very recent. All of the research on ants has been, I don't know, kind of in the past 50 years. Most ant species we haven't even discovered yet. That's why I'm so interested by it, I think, because it's so recent, the sort of stuff that we're learning about them. But anyway, there's this other ant city which is incredibly impressive, and it's called a mega city. It's the world's biggest city. Full stop. It is, just try and get I'll put it into context. So it's 3,700 miles. And for me personally, I find it very hard to put figures into how big that actually is. So I'll sort of like explain it out to you. It is the same, it is bigger, okay, than if you went from East Coast to West Coast in America. It's further than that. You'd have 800 miles on top of that. It's wider than Russia, and it's the same length as the Nile, which is just, try and deep that for a second, how huge it is. So it's in sort of southern Europe, all the way from Portugal down over to Italy. So Portugal through Spain. Oh, I'm really embarrassing myself now. I'm not too good at geography. Might go through some other countries, down to the heel of Italy. And what is crazy about how these ants sort of live and how they develop and who they are as like a species is we could take one of the ants from the heel of Italy, drive it 3,700 miles to the furthest tip on the other side, which is on the coast of Portugal. You could plop it into the nest, and the ants there would treat it like a sister. It would share its food with it. It's just the cutest thing. It would look after it. It'd be accepted as one of its own. And it's just like, you see our problems as humans. How can ants do it? Do you know what I mean? They literally can't even talk. They can't even use words. I love ants so much. So ants pretty much only have two real purposes in their life, and it's to fulfill their job and serve their queen. And ants are sort of born into the job that they're gonna have. So if you're, let's say, a carpenter ant, you're born, and from the day that you're born, out of your larvae, you are working. And there are experts in these fields. There are like sort of older ants, worker ants, who will sort of teach the youngins how to be a better carpenter, or how to be a better surgeon, or how to be better in the war and fighting, and sort of teach it little tricks. And it is just unbelievable. It's incredible. And they don't complain. But yeah, I guess that sort of opens up another conversation, doesn't it? Because they don't complain because they don't understand the concept of complaining. Do you know what I mean? Ants are so programmed so tightly that they don't know anything other than their job and to serve their queen. There's no sort of opinion or anything that they have, because that's not how they work. They are literally just the most selfless, sort of hard-working, tiny architects that, I mean, as humans, I really think we look over them quite a lot. Because they're really, really incredible animals. Okay, so I'm trying to kind of think about what route we should go down this rabbit hole in. And I think sort of the Watch Mojo top 3 ants is probably the best route to go down, because these are incredible ants, and I've really hand-selected these. Okay, so, oh my God, I love them so much. So the first ant I've picked is the medical ant. So there was a study in 2024 in Florida where before this time, we thought us as humans were the only animals capable of performing life-saving surgery and amputations and stuff. And then there was this study where they were looking at medical ants who are like the ant surgeons, and ants perform amputations and surgeries and stuff. So an ant will get injured in war, or when they're out, or they've just hurt their leg or something, or their arm, or something adorable like that. So then they'll sort of stumble over to the ant hospital, and it's been proven that the ant will literally very still and just present its leg to the doctor, and the doctor will do some sort of pre-op examination, medical sort of test, where from, I know, the ant's blood, they can figure out the sort of percentage of bacteria, and then they can sort of decide how severe is it, how urgent is it to do surgery straight away or later. They'll do these sort of very deep cleanses of sort of injuries, and they've got like this different antibiotic sort of goop that they can sort of release from their butt or something gross, and they spread it for 40 minutes, do it deep clean, and then if it's on the upper leg, they amputate it in 40 minutes, because if it's there, that's all the blood is sort of kept in the ant's legs, and you don't want that travelling back, so they'll amputate it off. If it's in the lower leg, they'll just do a very deep clean. And all of the results back from this is, if you were to not go to the ant hospital and the ant doctor, there's about a 40% survival rate. But if you were to go to the ant doctor, there's 90% survival rate. But yeah, then they'll have these pharmacist sort of ants that so cute, who will like come over and be like, we'll give you a 2-week prescription of antibiotics. You've got to come back every day for 2 weeks. We'll redress your wounds, make sure they're sort of healing good. And yeah, they're just really adorable animals. So that's probably my number 3 ant is, yeah, probably the medical ant. My number 2 ant is the army ant. These ants are incredible because they're always sort of at war and stuff. They're nomadic, so meaning they don't live anywhere. They don't have enough time to sort of build an ant nest and stay there. So they'll sort of make this nest. Let me try and describe it as simply as possible. They'll make a nest out of themselves, if that makes sense. They'll make this big sort of ring and it'll all connect, and I'll keep the queen in the middle and keep her all warm. It's really, really cute. And these ants are incredibly clever because let's say there's a gap or something that they have to jump over, they'll make a bridge out of themselves over the gap. And they've got this cost-effective energy sort of thing. They found this out at this Princeton University study where they realised that they don't want to use an ant's energy if it's not needed. So they'll literally use the exact right amount of ants for the job. A bit like sort of like a stingy hospitality worker owner or something who doesn't want to pay too many people. So they'll kind of overwork all of the staff. That's how ants are programmed. Just the most cost efficient sort of capitalist sort of animals that you could ever imagine. How they connect these army ants is incredibly cool. They'll sort of connect their little antennas, or in this case, like what my ears would be, connect them, and then they connect their feet together and they make a really, really strong join. Like this join is so strong that in East Africa, they'll get these army ants, a specific type of army ant called a driver ant. And if you've got a really deep gash, they'll get these ants, make them bite their leg, twist off their body, and it's technically like a surgical staple, and it stays in there really, really, really strong for about a week or something, 5 days a week, and it's waterproof and you can go swimming in it, and it does a really, really good job as a stitch. Incredible animal. So in these sort of villages in South America, they've found that these army ants, when they find out the people in the village, when they find out that the army ants are coming through the village, they'll all leave their houses and they'll leave all their doors open. And by the time they get back to their house after the army ants have left, it is the cleanest you've ever seen it. It's really incredible because it like gets rid of all the rats, all the spiders, all the crumbs, all the dirt, and it is literally like the best cleaner, the best deep cleaner you've ever seen. And it's probably one of the only times that a landlord would come over and say, I'm not taking any of your deposit. Do you know what I mean? It is that clean. They are really, really incredible army ants. So because of that, I'm going to put army ants probably at number 2. Yeah, army ants has definitely got my number 2 slot. And my number 1 slot, I would say, are weaver ants. Oh, I love weaver ants so much. This is really cute. So weaver ants, as it kind of is in the name, they're weavers, they're makers. They sort of are the ones making the nest, making it really strong. They're incredible sort of craftsmen. And these ants, these weaver ants, will use their children larvae as hot glue sticks. So they'll pick up the larvae, they'll squeeze them with their cute little arms, they'll squeeze the larvae, and out of their bum, they release this sort of amazingly strong silk. And they use that just as hot glue guns, and I'll do it along all of the seams and everything. It's really, really awesome, these ants. And it doesn't hurt the larvae at all. It's just incredibly effective. And there's also this thing. This is also a reason why I think ants are so important. So 4th century Chinese farmers used to, grow citrus fruits, let's say. And they would be like, fuck, we've got all of these pests that keep on trying to eat all of our citrus fruits. And it's so annoying, FML. Can someone get rid of these pests? There's no such thing as pesticide because it's the 4th century, aka 400 AD. So they realize, wait, weaver ants are amazing at this stuff. So you go to the market, buy a nest of weaver ants and put them up in the tree, and they would kill all of the pests. There's nothing getting close to your citrus. Don't you worry. So they built, all of these Chinese farmers built these bamboo sort of highways between all the trees. So they'd run between all of them. And it's just incredible. It just shows human innovation when you're working with animals and not against them. It's the most important thing when you look at the world. to realise if you're working with animals and with nature and not against it, obviously you're going to do a better job. I mean, I read this really interesting thing. I can't remember where in Canada where it was. I think it was Toronto, where they were building up all of these new sort of suburb housing estates and stuff. And they went to this one part and went, we're going to build up loads of this, don't you worry, it's going to be capitalist heaven. And they start building, and then when they had laid the foundations, they realised that the ground that they were building on was marshland, a bit like South London, which for context is why South London doesn't have any tubes, because the actual ground that it's built on means if you put a tube, the ground would just collapse. And it's the same in this place in Toronto. So they went, okay, we have no idea what we're going to do about this. We're just going to leave it, go away, renovate other places and get planning permission on it. And by the time, obviously, because it's like a government or a council, obviously all this stuff takes ages, they were gone for about 4 years. And then they come back to be like, we'll do a rewilding project on this area of land. And they came up to it and it was all completely already rewilded by these beavers. And the beavers had done the work for the government, for like the people of Toronto, all of this stuff. And they calculated how much it would have cost to get human labourers to do it. And it was something like $2 billion, like Canadian dollars or something, which in equivalent, I mean, I don't know the conversion rate, but I think it's probably a lot. Do you know what I mean? And they got beavers to do it. This is what's so amazing about animals, is what's the point of going against them and saying, oh, ants are pests, how do we kill them all? I don't think I'm ever going to stand on an ant again. I absolutely love them. I just think they're the most incredible animals ever. So I guess when we look at ants, I mean, as humans, we kind of think they've got quite a great life. Do you know what I mean? None of them are unemployed, obviously. Which is something that, oh my God, we would wish to not have this problem. You look at ants and you go, maybe that's all right. There's no ego. Everyone's got a job. Everyone's included. All this sort of stuff. But I haven't spoken about the sort of ultimate romantic tragedy that is the male ant. It is really, really tragic. And I don't know rabbits at home. Maybe I've got some rabbit feminists that are in their burrow kind of whooping about this. But their life is very, very hard, these male ants. They're pretty much the unfertilized eggs. The females are the workers. They're the ones that are building the houses. They're the doctors. They're the surgeons. They're kind of like, I don't know, they're the cogs that keep it sort of running. The male ants, on the other hand, are the winged ones. The females don't have wings, males do. And they pretty much just live in a nest, don't really have much purpose whatsoever, except for, I mean, just producing offspring and, I mean, like just providing sperm for the queen. So they chill in this one part of the nest, which is pretty secluded, pretty far away, little dingy corner. And they get fed by their sisters. They can't even feed themselves. They're incredibly, do you know what I mean? Not much going on up there. And there'll be this one day called Nuptial Day. Sorry, I can't remember exactly how you pronounce it. But anyway, there's one day a year, and I mean, I don't know whether you'll catch it. I'm trying to catch it right now, but it's when the temperature's just right, the humidity is perfect, and all of the male ants and the queen ants will all at one time fly into the sky and basically have this really horrific fight in the air to mate with the queen. And then straight after, when they mate, it just ruptures their internal organs and they're paralyzed. And then they literally die, the men. And the queen sort of return home, welcomed by everyone, sort of all screaming and shouting and clapping. But these men are just dropped dead on the floor, paralyzed. And then even worse, if you're not successful, that's already a big enough blow. You want to go, don't get laid. You try and come home and you're not allowed in. You're not allowed back. So they'll be knocking at the door, the Berlin bouncers at the door, no, you're not coming in, you're not allowed around here. I don't know, it's just not what you want to happen. Is you try and go into a nightclub, they're like, yeah, come in, enjoy yourself. You go away hoping that you're going to have re-entry. You come back and they're like, who do you think you are? Do you speak German or English? You're not allowed in. Sorry. And you've got nowhere to go to. And you're literally just stranded and left there to die. So I think that is some sort of ultimate tragedy when it comes to ants. And although they're great, I mean, they're incredibly cruel. Like, I think it's natural as humans for us to think, oh, maybe ants have it quite well. Maybe ants have a good life. Like, there's no problems really with them. And I think the answer to whether we want to be ants is ultimately no. Obviously, we don't want to be ants. Do you know what I mean? They're always at war. They're constantly at war. Very, very aggressive. Very xenophobic. These ants, always in arguments with each other. Always just trying to, if you're not like us, we're going to kill you. They're completely programmed to do whatever. And they're just sort of hyperly militaristic, and they've just got no concept of free will. They've got no concept of complaining because they don't know how to complain, because what is complaining to them? They don't have an opinion. They don't have hobbies. They don't have curiosities. They don't have anything that they do for fun. They're just living this incredibly boring life. And I mean, I guess it's just totalitarian, isn't it? It's quite hard to apply political statements to ants because on the one hand, you could say it's socialist and that Karl Marx has got it right, but just with the wrong species. And that is a quote by E.O. Wilson, who is Ant-Man. He is an absolute legend. He died a couple years ago, but big up. I love E.O. Wilson. But I guess you could say it's socialist. I guess on the other hand, you could say maybe it's democracy. They have this thing called pheromone voting. Maybe it's democratic, but maybe you could just say, call it what it is. It's xenophobic, isn't it? And it's quite common with capitalist sort of leaders, humans, to use ants as an example of the perfect way to sort of function. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of speeches by Peter Thiel and other sort of alt-right capitalist, like sort of fear-mongering warlords who realise that actually maybe we should all be more like ants. Do you know what I mean? Just be happy doing your job and just do the best job you possibly can. And don't complain about it. And be cost efficient and cost effective and all of this stuff. Sorry, my SD card's just run out, but I mean, maybe that's a sign to sort of wrap up this rabbit hole. I just think living an ant's life sounds kind of terrifyingly familiar, don't you think? That's what's so interesting about it, is they function very similarly to society, and from far away you think, surely this is incredibly functional, but no, it's not. Maybe we, as humans, we look towards the stars in the skies and sort of gods and celestial ideals. I mean, look at Shakespeare, look at Greek tragedies, look at all this stuff. We model ourselves off of these sort of ideals, and it's what all this sort of war and everything sort of comes down to. But maybe our terrifying blueprint is actually beneath our feet, and we're more similar to them than we actually think. Do you know what I mean? That's sort of the crux of what I find about ants so interesting, is that we can just learn so much about ourselves. It's a lot easier to see your own reflection when you see yourself in someone else rather than in a mirror, because it's hard to be critical of yourself and hard to be critical of humans because we're part of it. Do you know what I mean? Even if you are left, you're still a part of a system. Look, I'm literally on a laptop, I'm on Instagram, it's how I promote it. I'm just as bad. Do you know what I mean? When you see ants, you can say, what a terrible way to live your lives. It's quite similar to us, don't you think? But yeah, I guess that's kind of the end of my rabbit hole. I've kind of come up with this idea that I want to sort of finish episodes off with sort of giving you guys a rabbit hole to go down. So sort of quick fire. My rabbit hole I want you to explore with this topic is anything either E.O. Wilson, who's an awesome guy, watch a video of his or something, or if you want something practical, hands-on, build your own ant farm. It's really, really awesome. And I thought it would have been a bit cruel, but if I'm honest, ants don't really know any better. Do you know what I mean? They're just programmed. You just give them enough food, enough nutrients, keep them out of sunlight, use a gel. Got to use a gel one, that's a little bit better. Make an ant farm, why not? You've got to buy a queen from somewhere, but that's actually my rabbit hole I think you guys should go down. And then my rabbit hole recommendations for this episode are, oh my God, it was awesome. I went to Unfold when I was meant to be in Berlin, and it's this sort of collective called Tech Couture. So I would suggest all of you rabbits at home, go to an Unfold or a Tech Couture event. Either one, it was amazing. Okay, my rabbit recommendation of a space is the Tracy Emin exhibition. Don't know if you can see it, it's on my wall there. Amazing, pretty heavy, but just go into it with sort of quite an open mind, and I'm sure that you'll learn something about it. My rabbit recommendations for food is banana and peanut butter smoothie. So good, so easy. I just have them every single morning. I mean, that's an ADHD thing, is the whole making up a decision on what to eat. It's actually very exhausting. Just getting one thing and having it all the time. That's how I roll. So at the moment, I'm having peanut butter and banana smoothies. Just add some milk in, blend it. So good. Great breakfast. I would recommend all of that to you guys. My rabbit hole recommendation song is, what did I pick? Don't Make Me Over by Diane Warwick. Amazing song. Oh my God. It was in this Nan Golden exhibition in one of her slideshows in Paris, and shit, that just hit. I had Shazam on the whole time, but I recommend that song. And my book I'd recommend is Politics in the English Language by George Orwell. Very, very short, about 16 pages. It's an essay, and it is just incredible. I mean, I'm a very bad reader, so I got an audiobook, read along with it. I really understood it. I didn't think I would. And I really heard everything that he said. If you read it and then you watch this, or you sort of hear how Rabbithole is, it's not very Orwellian. But that's fine. And yeah, this is my rabbit hole that I've gone down this week. And also, quick shout out to all the rabbits at home. If you are neurodivergent and you want to come on the show, please, we can go to my borough. I can come to your borough. I just want some people talking about hyper interests. And yeah, I just want to keep learning. So, rabbits at home, this is Skulls Out. Goodbye, rabbits. Goodbye.